Welcome to the Hope.Wafaq Online for everyone. Course we offer worksheet making, arts and craft course, graphics designs, class management, basic research in English, basic research in Urdu, demo class Urdu, demo class preparation in English, class in charge in English, class in charge Urdu medium, vice principal Urdu medium, vice principal English medium, coordinators. Even a single person can enroll face-to-face classes. वन-on-वन इंटरफेस अकेला फ़र्द भी दाखिला ले सकता है. मुकम्मल तवज्जो, इनफरादी ख़ासियात, आपकी खुद एतमादी और भरोसामंदी की अज़हद गारंटी. वी गारंटीड फॉर योर ट्रस्ट एंड वैल्यू. Welcome back everyone from Mentor English, especially the students, especially the teachers, the parents, and all my watchers, viewers, and all my friends and family, all my FNF, my fans. Welcome back. So today the topic is natural and conventional science. Before going to start the topic, I would like to tell you that we have launched new diplomas, especially about artificial intelligence, about ChatGPT for teachers only, Canva for teachers only, worksheet makings, and demo lectures are available for a particular class-wise levels for the teachers. So let's do it. Let's start the topic. A language is a system of symbols through which people communicate. The symbols may be spoken, written, or signed with the hands. People who use a language to communicate with one another constitute a society, a language community. The English language community, for instance, within that community there are differences in the way different people use the language, chiefly of a geographical or social nature. When people who have the same native language can understand one another but still notice consistent difference in each other's speech, we say they speak different dialects of that language. It is easy to illustrate dialect differences, vocabulary differences like petrol versus gasoline, lift versus elevator, alternative ways of framing certain questions. Have you a pencil versus do you have a pencil versus have you got a pencil, for instance. It's extremely difficult to say how many differences there are between dialects or to recognize where one dialect ends and other begins. Language is only one of the common activities of a society. The totality of common activities, institutions, and beliefs make up the culture of the society. Cultural groupings are not necessarily coterminous with the language communities. In the modern world, it is quite the opposite. Cultural features are almost always more widespread than any one language. Native speaker of English belongs to the so-called Western culture, which has developed from the Hebrews, Greeks, and Romans of the ancient world. If it is hard to specify just what constitutes dialect, it is equally difficult to specify what is included in one culture. Our culture includes, for example, eating with a fork, wearing neckties, knowing at least some of the same proverbs, using at least some of the same gestures for the same purposes, celebrating the arrival of a new year, believing in law and democracy, and hundreds of other major and minor customs and beliefs. Is the point is that communication takes place against a large common background. A language is a complex system of symbols or signs that are shared by members of a community. It will be useful to consider other signs that we know and how we react to them. Robinson Crusoe, according to Daniel Defoe's novel, was walking along the beach one morning and suddenly saw a human footprint in the sand made by the man who was later to be called Friday. As it turned out, what happened? Recording was off or mic? Should I repeat it? Okay, edit it during the. Let me repeat. A language is a complex system of symbols or signs that are shared by members of a community. It will be useful to consider other signs that we know and how we react to them. Robinson Crusoe, according to Daniel Defoe's novel, was walking along the beach one morning and suddenly saw a human footprints in the sand made by the man who was later to be called Friday. As it turned out, this experience, after 27 years of living alone on his island, so frightened poor Robinson Crusoe, that he ran back to the cave that was his home and would not venture out again that day. A footprint is a natural sign. It is the natural result of a foot treading on a soft surface, and it can communicate a message that the owner of the foot we recently there to anyone who observe it. We are all familiar with other natural signs. We see smokes, and now that there is a fire or a fire has just gone out, a black cloud informs us of the possibility of rain. Treetops moving tell us that the wind is blowing. Our own bodies provides uh, such signs as itches and hunger pangs. In other people, we notice and interpret shivering, perspiration, or a head nodding with drowsiness. All sorts of signs, sounds, and smells can be neutral signs. They communicate to someone who observe and can interpret, but their messages are unintentional, the byproducts of various events. the byproducts of various events in modern life, we are likely to be less concerned with the natural signs than with conventional signs. The auditory and visual devices that people have created to send routine messages to one another day after day, we hear such signals because someone intend for us to hear them. Horns, whistles, sirens, buzzers, and bells. The poor of gun starts competitive competitive runners, swimmers, and jockeys on their respective races in various sports. A whistle of buzzer marks the beginning and end of each periods of play. Visual signs are just as prevalent and as varied. We have conventional ways of indicating a slippery road, a bicycle path, the location of a telephone, of men's and women's lavatories, where there is access for the handicapped, where smoking is prohibited, and much more. Humans produce not only single symbols, but system of symbols, different bugle calls, different bell tones, different numbers of toots on a whistle, or flashes of light can form a repertory of messages. The traffic light found at numerous cities streets intersections is a good example of a symbol system. None of these communications uses language. So of course, devising, installing, and learning them could not be accomplished by people who had no language. Unlike natural signs, conventional signs have human senders as well as human receivers. Each one has an intention and an interpretation. The message may pardon me, the message may be personal as when a friend rings your telephone, or quite impersonal and journal, like the warning siren on a speeding ambulance. We can even use devices like smoke detectors and burglar alarms to send messages to ourselves at a later time, in circumstances that we really do not want to occur. Observing any such sign and getting information from it seems like a simple matter and can take place in an instant, and yet the process of getting information consists of three steps. So what are these three steps? The first one is perception, the second one is identification, and the third one is interpretation. The first one is perception. The sign and the observer share a context of place and time in which the sign attracts the observer's attention. Robinson Crusoe, to use our first example, walked where the footprints was looked in the right direction when there was sufficient light for visibility, and before the print had been obliterated by rain, wind, tide, or the movement of other creatures. The second point, identification. Every perception is a unique experience. To say that we recognize a phenomenon means that we match it with the previous experience stored in our memory. Almost certainly, if you observe a sign and derive some meaning from it, you must have seen a similar sign before. We identify any new things either as a phenomenon previously observed or more often as something that is identical with phenomena we already know, a new token of a familiar type. The human mind cannot deal with an infinite number of separate things. We classify an entity as a new instance of the class of footprints or bushes or sirens or churches, and to identify what some things is requires us to recognize what is not, to discriminate between signs. The third important point is interpretation. Meaning are often personal. The meaning of any sign depends on the space time context in which we observe it. Crusoe's reaction to the footprint was due to the circumstances of his life. The fact that until this moment it had been impossible for him to see any human footprints other than his own. This is clearly an unusual case, but all the time we interpret differently in different contexts. Conventional signs can have different meanings in different contexts or different circumstances. The whistle of a policeman directing traffic, the whistles of a hotel doorman summoning a taxi, and summoning a taxi summoning a taxi let me just repeat, summoning a taxi, and the whistle of referee in a soccer game may all sound exactly the same. Their different meanings are due to the difference of context in which the signal occurs. They have different intentions and are interpreted differently. So we have discussed it in detail. Our next topic will be linguistic signs. So we will be back. This lecture is particularly for teachers and for the BS students. So if you want this lecture particularly in Urdu, then must subscribe Murshid Urdu Professor M.A. Raza. The channel handle is Mentor Urdu, and in all English medium or English in particular English medium, these lectures will be available, and the next series of these lectures will be available on Mentor English Professor M.A. Raza. So let me go now. Before going, I would like to request you that must subscribe and hit the bell icon. Let me go now and say with me, do something more for humanity, do something more for knowledge and practices. Have a good day.